But today, we're really, really lucky to have our own Julie Maguire. And I've got something to say about Julie. Oh yeah, Julie got her PhD from UCC in 1998. She's been busy all over the place ever since, in France and Scotland. And you've been down in Gary since 2005. Yeah. So a really warm welcome for Julie Maguire.
So, thanks everybody, and thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here. I've been threatening to come to this place since I moved to Bantry because I've heard so much about it over the years, but I either got lost trying to find it or I don't know, but I'm here now, so it's great. So, no. Oh, no. Back again. Okay. So, for those of you who might know, well, you see, normally I give presentations and people don't know where the sheep's head is, but I guess everybody here would. So this is our place down here. It's not clearer, but I just love this shop. One of the young fellas at work had a drone and put it up, and I just love the scenery. So we're kind of nestled in on the Bantry Bay side of Sheep's Head. You can't really see us from the road is higher up, but we have signage, so if anyone wants to come and visit, you're more than welcome to come and check us out. Okay, so Seaweed, Saving the World. It was a bit of a bold title I came up with. So saving the world one greenhouse gas at a time. So I suppose the big baddie would be carbon dioxide specifically. So seaweed plays an essential role in carbon sequestration. So what a lot of people know is marine algae is responsible for more than 70% of the world's carbon storage. So in other words, and no offence to all the terrestrial ecologists here, but it's more important than any tree, than all the trees in the world. It stores more carbon, well, from a carbon sequestration point of view. In fact, there's a study going on, a global study at the moment on seaweed farming and how that actually captures carbon. And the preliminary results, they've only 1 year of data, but around a salmon or seaweed farm stores 10 times the carbon than, not a farm, where there's not a farm. So it does store a lot of carbon. What we find in our seaweed farms is, you do get fronds that fall off and they do sink to the bottom, and then the next time you see that carbon, it'll be oil or gas or whatever, something like that, we hope. So, but also carbon sequestration mitigates ocean acidification, and a lot of people, climate change is, of course, it's very serious, and ocean warming is very serious, but actually for the sea, ocean acidification is far worse. So because of all this carbon in the sea, the ocean is getting more and more acidic. So eventually, if it gets too acidic, the likes of shellfish will not be able to make any shells because, they need calcium for that. And it's actually, in marine biology circles, it's a way worse kind of outcome than the warming is, because you would hope that animals and plants will be able to adapt to a certain amount of warming, but acidification, no. So, and the other thing about seaweed is it can absorb vast quantities of organic pollutants, so it'll soak up everything. Oh my God, it's amazing stuff. And then we get to the future food security. So at the moment we're at 8 billion people. We'll probably be 9 billion in about 5 years' time. I'm guessing at that, but it's the rate of population growth is kind of crazy. So there's a stat that I looked up that in 2050 we will need 56% more food than we did in 2010, which is kind of crazy as well. But again, the ocean accounts for 70% of the world's surface, but only contributes to 2% of the food we eat. And the European Commission has kind of recognised this fact, and because of seaweed and how it plays such an essential role in kind of fighting climate change. It's also great to eat. And they have said that a thriving EU algae industry could become a flagship for other industries to become more regenerative, innovative and socially exemplary, creating thousands of jobs in coastal communities. So they have this like big aim to seaweed farming, both offshore and nearshore. And they have a 23-point plan actually that you can look up, and it starts in 2023. And they have this target to reach 8 million tonnes of seaweed production in Europe in 10 years, which is kind of a bit crazy as well, because at the moment we're only at about 30,000 tonnes. So in Ireland we have about 600 species of seaweed, and they're predominantly red seaweeds, and the red seaweeds are kind of pretty tiny, and a lot of them look quite like each other, so they can be hard to distinguish between them. But they're amazing really. Like, seaweed's really low in fat, which is good, but the lipids it does have are, a lot of EPAs and DHAs. They're essential fatty acids. But the big stat here, the big take-home point, is the protein level. Some of the red seaweeds are up to 47% protein, and that is higher than meat. So, certain seaweeds like Palmaria, for instance, you'd certainly get your protein intake from eating Palmaria. So, anyway, okay. So why eat seaweed then? So as I said, it's kind of low in fat, it's very high in protein, it has nearly every mineral and vitamin that you could think of, but it also has a lot of bioactives. Brown seaweed, for instance, contains cycloxanthin, which is an antioxidant that stabilizes blood sugar levels and reducing the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Seaweed also improves gut health. The carrageenans, agards and fucoidins, these are all bioactives. And if anyone wants to ask a question, just ask away, because we're a small group and it's absolutely fine. But my favourite are the sulfated polysaccharides. So these are sugars. Seaweeds have unique sugars, so not found in any other plants. And a lot of them are sulfated. And these have been known to be anti-everything, so antibacterial, antifungal, antioxidant, anti-tumour, anti-everything, these sulfated polysaccharides. And they're finding new ones all the time. And there's a lot of trials being carried out in what they do. So, these sulfated polysaccharides are really interesting. And also, seaweed improves heart health. So it may help to reduce blood pressure and cholesterol, but more research is needed on this front. And obviously it's a really excellent source of iodine as well, required for thyroid function. But in some species, especially the likes of Saccharina latissima, some of the iodine levels can be excessively high, so you have to be quite careful and with eating certain types because of the iodine level, if you're iodine intolerant. So, as you know, it's either, in Ireland, it's mainly wild harvested. So about 95% of seaweed in Ireland is harvested by hand, mainly up in kind of Galway and Connemara and that area, because the bays up there, Two Bays, is nice and shallow, so it's easy to access. And but you can farm it as well, and that's what we do in Bantry. So the production, so in 2019 was about 30,000 tonnes, and only about 420 of that was farmed. And I said there's only 13 species that we use, but Ascophyllum nodosum is the main one, and that's 25,000 tonnes in, and that's all wild harvested. But seaweed culture is increasing year by year. It takes about 4 years to get a license on average. And in 2021 there was 180 hectares licensed, Last year it went up to 254, but there's 522 in submission with the department. And we actually have one application in at the moment, so we're waiting to hear about that. But we're not holding our breath because it takes so long. So production worldwide then, this graphic is a bit old. It's up to 35 million tonnes are produced globally, mainly in Asia. And actually it's the opposite to the Irish situation and the European situation, that about 95% of all seaweed in the world is produced and is cultured on lines or in tanks. And only a small percentage is wild harvested. So the rest of the world has gone the opposite to what we're doing. So, and as I said, European, it's the same, about 95% is wild harvested and 5% is farmed. And it's mainly sea-based, so it's grown on long lines, but there's some tank culture as well. And the wild harvesting, 85% is still done by hand, and about 15% is mechanical. And most of this mechanical harvesting occurs up in Norway, because it's hard to access the fjords without doing it by boat, I think. And then companies-wise, there's 27 companies producing algae in Ireland, and that number is growing all the time. And then for us, we have 2 seaweed sites. We have a 6-hectare sea site in Bantry, and we have a 16-hectare sea site in Coomhola, over near Cookhaven. So how do we do this? So if you came to our lab, you'd see how we produce our seaweed. So basically, like everything, there's a life cycle, and you have to follow the life cycle. And so at the beginning of the year, January, February, March, we start and we collect spore fills rather, from the wild. And we just take like a handful, see them down there, and we bring them back to the lab. And then we clean and clean and clean and clean them some more. We clean them 13 times actually, that's in our manual, because you don't want anything in your cultures other than your kelp.
Julie, can I just ask how long you clean it? Is it just
fresh water?
Just fresh
yeah.
water.
Yeah. But anything marine, you clean with fresh water. It's because it will osmosis will take over, and So we don't use any chemicals or anything like that. And then we put them into these kind of glass balls, for want of a better word, and round bottom flasks. And so we keep them like that for the whole year. So in these cultures, they're growing and dividing, and they're still spores, and we're tricking them into thinking it's springtime all the time. So then towards the end of the year, we fertilize all these spores, and then we spray the fertilized spores onto string. So there's string wrapped around these tubes here, so about 50 meters of each. And then we let the little plants develop for about a month in tanks. So that's what they look like under a microscope. You can't really see them with the naked eye. They just look like the string is kind of dirty. And then we wind this string on a long line, and and then usually October, November time, and then we come back after Christmas in January. So these are some pictures, to see if everything's okay. And it always amazes me actually that it grows so well in the winter, because there's no sunlight really, and it needs sunlight to grow. But they're between 1 and 2 meters in January, and then this time of the year in May, voila, that's our final harvest. So it's usually about 10 kilos per linear meter, and about each of these would be maybe 4 to 5 meters long.
Is that sugar kelp?
Yeah, this is Alaria esculenta, this picture, which is Atlantic wakame, the Japanese call it. But we do sugar kelp as well, and Alaria as well. I love this picture because it was the first time we ever harvested And it was quite funny because we went out on a rib and we were like, oh my God, we're going to need a bigger boat. It's like, because it was coming in, and we were like, okay, right, okay, we have to change the plan. But and we harvest by hand. We just, it comes off, you cut it with a knife and that's it.
Is this string, is it organic or is it plastic based?
Yeah, the string is kind of strange actually, because it's called Curlon, and we well actually we buy it from France, but they get it from Japan, and we've tried different types of string and it just doesn't work as well.
So what is
It does.
What's it made of?
I'm not really sure. I'm not 100% sure, but it does biodegrade.
Okay.
You know, you wrap it around, and then as the seaweed grows, the holdfast gets bigger, and it's attaching onto the rope eventually. You know, but
So it must be able to just key really well into it then. So it's able to grip it.
It's funny because we did a trial for Gore-Tex, for the people who make the clothes, or Gore, because they were developing a string, and their string was costing an absolute arm and a leg. So we said, look, we try it out, but it still wasn't as good as the Curlon. You know, and they had said it was all to do with the like any type of material, these little holes and different divots.
So you know what it's made of?
I don't know what it's made
I
of.
wonder if it's a seaweed based string or something.
Probably. Actually, I must find out. Because you see, we've never ordered direct from Japan ourselves. We ordered from another hatchery in France. But because the minimum order is something crazy, like you have to order 10,000 kilometers of string. And and we produce in our hatchery, because we supply the whole country, and we produce about 20 kilometers of string. So if we were to order 10,000 kilometers, that would be so. Luckily, the French people let us buy it off them, because obviously in Asia, they like the farms that do have regularly, 1,000 kilometers in one farm kind of thing. So, yeah, they don't do quite that. But I'm going to find out what's in the Curlon. Or if you know anyone who speaks Japanese, then they can.
We do actually, yeah. We've got someone teaching it at the school there.
Oh, cool. Okay. So that's the seabed. So you can also grow seaweed on land, and so the main species grown on land are either the greens or the reds, all of them Palmaria and Porphyra and Codium and Condus and Gracilaria. We produce Palmaria and Porphyra as well, which are tricky enough, especially the Porphyra, because it has a very strange life cycle. Now, the big difference with the land-based stuff is the seaweed can be tuned. And what I mean by tuned is, it depends on what it eats. And towards the end, before harvesting, if you stress it out, so if you treat it badly, not badly like, I don't know, like if you don't feed it, if you starve it, for instance, you can tune it. It goes into defense mode, so it starts producing more of these sulfated polysaccharides and, defense mechanisms, that it needs to fight off, bad conditions, suboptimal conditions. So typically, protein gets increased if it's cultivated in a tank. So, like if you buy cultivated all of that from a tank, the protein content is 29%, whereas wild all that's 14%, and in Palmaria it's 35% cultivated on land compared to 14% in the wild stuff. So that's just kind of
that's just by changing conditions.
Just changing conditions. Now you would never be giving them anything nasty, Just like usually, like you would, you mightn't give them potassium, and then they'll start storing something else, It all depends on what you want what you want them to end up like, because we have customers now, and some of them just want polysaccharides, so you tune them to produce more polysaccharides, so they're high in sugar. And but mainly people want protein, or the bioactives. So
Funny how stressing
it is
has
funny.
this amazing effect on lots of species as well.
Yeah.
We were growing, 30 years ago, we were growing shiitake mushrooms, culturing them on oak logs. We tried a lot of different strains. We, imported some from Japan and one thing or another, and different places, just to see what would work. And there was one strain, and it was like they'd been in these logs for 3 years and nothing appeared. So we said, oh well, we'll get some firewood out of it. And so I cut them up into stove lengths and stacked them inside next to the stove. And in the morning they were covered in mushrooms. just from severing the selling. It stressed it to make it,
Yeah.
And there was never a hint of a mushroom before that.
Yeah, it is kind of
Put me in an arm lock there and see if I can do any better.
You thought they were heading to the bonfire.
So, another common way of tank-based culture is called integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, because you need a nutrient source, and because otherwise you're buying urea or fertilizer or something to feed these seaweeds, because they will soak up absolutely everything. So this is from a friend in Portugal, in Aveiro. She used to work with us, and then she went back, and she grows sea bream and sea bass and seaweed together. Well, not together. So the wastewater from the fish feeds into our seaweed tanks and cleans up the water, and then it goes back out to the Rio de Aveiro, if I'm saying that right. But so because of their climate, she gets year-round production of all that, and she also produces gracilaria, and it's a very low. These tanks that she has, they're like ponds, so she's a really low stocking density of sea bream and sea bass, but they are fed, and she grows the seaweed that way. And she told me actually she makes more money from the seaweed than she does the fish, because it's it doesn't cost her anything really apart from pumping
I'm
costs.
looking at 5 kilograms per metre square. I mean, very few plants will be producing that much.
Yeah.
To that.
Yeah, the yields are crazy, But like she would say, like her biomass would double every week, so she has to harvest half of her seaweed out every week, and then it just bounce back.
And she's selling it for around
It all goes-
fish food.
No, her stuff it's really high quality, so it's all for human consumption. First of all.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, all of that, and she's gracilaria, she's palmaria as well. So if you're ever in Portugal and you see her, it's Alga Plus. She's up there, you can't see, but she's got really nice products, and she makes kind of interesting food products as well. She's a mackerel, sardines and seaweed, really tame. She makes seaweed sauce, so she just dries the ulva and sticks it in a salt cellar, because the salts, you get a really good salts, potassium salts, and so you just sprinkle it over your food. Lots of little kind of neat things. So this IMTA system can also be done at sea, and so we had a salmon farm beside our site in Bantry, and when the salmon farm was there, we would expect our biomass was 18 kilos a litre is what we used to get on the landmines. But so interestingly, the fish are back as of today. I saw them going. The salmon farm's back. It was fallow for a good number of years, But actually, we've harvested all our seaweed this week, so yeah. So it will affect it next year, I would imagine. But yeah. So,
Would you have ratios as to how many fish you'd need for how much seaweed, or like for instance,
yeah,
if you had the three, is it 3 or 6 cages now at Kerry?
there's 6, I think.
There's 6, yeah. But
Well,
I mean, if you had, do you have some sort of ratio as to
Yeah,
if I
that's a
have
good question.
100,000 fish, I need so many acres of seaweed, and
Yeah.
like in the case of Shothead, if I have 1,000,000 fish, I
Yeah.
need so much seaweed.
Yeah, because in Norway they've done these calculations, because in Norway, for every new salmon farm, or even getting a change in license, you have to put seaweed beside it. There's no other way. Like, you have to get rid of your nutrients. So they've worked out for, now I don't know how scientific it is, but for every ton of salmon, you need to grow 9 tons of seaweed. So so if your license is 800 tons standing stock, so 9 times 800, of seaweed is what you need to grow.
But the unfortunate thing with that is that the seaweed you'd only be growing for a couple of months. What happens the other month?
Well, you see,
It
you
just
have
washes
to,
up the seaweed.
yeah, you see, the other thing with the seaweed is, and I get to this later on, is, like, as I said, we only grow it from like October, November to May.
Yeah.
But there's summer species you could put in there, as well. So,
You could flip it.
yeah, and then they only grow during summer, and then you harvest them, and then you go back to your pigs. So you could actually maximise your space if you wanted to. But it is a good point. But I think the salmon farmers would take the 9 tons for 5 months of the year, even though that's not technically how it's supposed to work. But you know what I mean? So what is it all used for in Ireland? So actually loads of different things. The big one, I suppose, is human food still, and fertilisers. But a lot of our Irish seaweed goes into cosmetics. So like a lot of the seaweed we produce goes to France, and some it's a face cream or something. But animal feed as well is growing in popularity, and nutraceuticals and food supplements and that type of thing. So globally, 70% of the world's seaweed is still used to make food, and then alginates, carrageenans, and agar is used about 15 to 20%. These are kind of extracts that they're used in everything. You know the way we use gelatin for a binding agent. In Asia, they use alginates for everything. So I went to a seaweed conference before the pandemic, and I went to this trade show, and it was massive. It was in Asia, and your eyes would be out in stalks, and you're passing Pringles, and Pringles in Asia are made of seaweed, and just random toothpaste, and like, it was just mental to think that all these products have seaweed ingredients. But in Europe, I read this paper recently that 2,600 new products containing seaweed as an ingredient were launched in the European market in the 10 years between 2008 and 2018, which is kind of huge. And the European demand for seaweed is growing at 10% per annum, but most of this is imported from Asia, which is really sad to see. Like, I have this thing that I do when I go into a shop and I see a seaweed product, in the nice packaging, to see where it comes from. And even the best organic shops in Ireland, all their stuff is from Korea or Indonesia, or China. And you're like, kind of going, we're only over the road, hello. All it is dried seaweed, and you're buying it, bringing it in from Asia. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just a little, But equally, the seaweed industry is so small in Ireland and Cork, and it's just, for them, it's cheaper and easier to bring in from Asia. But that will change, hopefully. And obviously the price of seaweed then is dependent on the use. So if it's sold as fertiliser, it's pretty cheap, but if it's sold as some high-end pharma product, like DuPont have a product out that is it's a drug that prevents, it's 100% based on a seaweed extract for cystic fibrosis. Yeah, it helps with I think kind of unclogging your lungs from that, and they've been running a clinical trial for years on it, and one of their patients is 70 years old, which apparently the cystic fibrosis is quite amazing. So yeah. So yeah, so I have to tell you about our Asparagus Armata project. So this is going back to the greenhouse gases again. So as you know, agriculture contributes to 33% of greenhouse gas emissions in Ireland, and ruminants are the big offenders, mainly cattle and cows, and sheep too. So in 2018 we screened, we kind of narrowed down to 600. We couldn't screen them all, unfortunately, to about 15 that we thought would demonstrate anti-methanogenic properties. And this came out from a study from Australia that came out the year before. And actually the guy who discovered it, this guy called Rob Kimmy, he visited us yesterday in Bantry. So we screened species every year, or for a month, for a year, and in different locations all around the country. And this species called Asparagus armata was the best by a long way, 400 times better actually than the next highest species. So if you give a teaspoon of this in the diet of a cow every day, it reduces the methane by up to 98%. And the methane comes out their mouths, it's produced in the first stomach. And it just changes the gut bacteria. So instead of producing methane, they produce hydrogen and water for the most part. So then we just carried on and we tried to close the life cycle, and it was, oh my God, it was torture. So we tried to get it to produce spores. 18 times we tried. And then eventually we cracked it, thanks to the help of this retired professor up in Galway. I'm going to send him a bottle of whiskey over Christmas until the day I die, because he really, really gave us a good clue. He was like, try this, and you're like, And it was one of these things that you'd never think to do, because it's counterintuitive to how plants grow, In other words, keep it in the dark. That would be the key to success. But anyway, so growth trials began in 2020, and it has a really complicated life cycle. So it grows on land, and it looks a bit like a pom-pom, these tetrasporophytes, and it's the little balls of fluff, and they bounce around or bubble around, and then they get to a certain size, about the size of a golf ball, and then they kind of split apart and they grow new little golf balls, and that's how they grow. And but then eventually they turn into gametophytes, which look more like a plant. They have a kind of hold fast, and they look more like a plant that's attached to something. And at the moment we get, this is the season, and so at the moment our biomass increase, we get 80% a week, so in the tanks. So we harvest every Friday usually, today, and we have to take 80% out. And so we're hoping to do a trial with Chagas in October, on a herd of cows down in Fermoy. That's the plan. So yeah. And anyway, this might be my last slide. So what are the bottlenecks? What are the opportunities? Where are we at? So as I said before, like seaweed farming, we're all kind of small independent farms on the periphery of Europe. Like in Ireland, there's 13 farmers. They might have 1 or 2 or 3, 4 sites each, but that's pretty small. And there's huge competition with Asia. So, like if you are going to, big, cosmetics company and they can just buy it cheaper from Korea, it's difficult. So we need to really I think, get together because we're not competing with each other. We're competing with Asia and we're also competing with the wild harvesting people because it's very low cost because all they do is fully grown, they go out and they cut it and that's it. They don't have to do that whole hatchery bit and the buying ropes and all that bit. But how we compete with them is we never grow the same species we would never go Ascophyllum because we'd never be able to compete with Ascophyllum. So we try and choose interesting species that have interesting characteristics that people want or are good for the planet. So the other thing about seaweed is there's really either complex or non-existent regulations. So, like for instance, the cultivation licenses, there's two types. You either have a finfish license or a shellfish license, and then we were like, we need a seaweed license. And they adapted the current licenses. So a lot of even filling it out, it doesn't apply to seaweed because it's not an animal. So yeah, so it's the limits. There can be, but in the wild seaweed, not in the farms because it's too young, with arsenic levels in seaweed because they will bioaccumulate absolutely everything. And but there's ways to get rid of arsenic and there's ways to get rid of iodine as well if it's too high in iodine. But again, the non-existent regulations is a factor. I just stuck this in because we got organic certification the other day. It was quite the chore because IOFCA doesn't really have a seaweed category. So we had to fill in the forms again and most of them were, there's NA, and I think they learned a lot from us rather than, they had questions, that like we don't use fertilizer, we don't use, they didn't think about what the Carlon made from though. You could job the organic certification people.
Are they looking to change it then?
Yeah, so they were very nice people, I must say. They just, I think they need a form that seaweed farmers can fill out that is relevant. So they need to come up with, I don't know how they do it for, potato farmers, I'm sure. It's mainly all about the where you get your fertilizer from, and we don't use fertilizer, so, it's, but then there's 20 million questions about fertilizer, so you've already answered we don't use it.
Would you contact the relevant parties and say to them, can't use the wage for the seaweed itself to skip all that part and make it a bit more enjoy it, or is there just no communication there between parties, or
you just get the people with the clipboards and the computer says no kind of thing, and but no, in fairness they've been great and they gave us organic status, but I think they didn't know not to give it to us, what I mean, because
The nutrients for the hatchery.
oh yeah, there's nutrients in the hatchery, but a tiny amount. You're talking, we make F2 media. Now, the stuff we grow in tanks, we use wastewater from the salmon farm. We don't add any nutrients either. So when you do have, you can buy organic nutrients actually, but literally we're putting in milliliters. It's not like you've got your farm of potatoes and you're spreading 10, 20.
So they were okay with that?
Yeah, we're fine with that.
Would there be a difference between the different organic certification bodies. You have IOPTA, you have Organic Trust. I know Organic Trust has been certifying certain seaweed processors for years. One in particular in Tralee, which I was asking if they went mechanical harvesting, how would they keep their organic status? And I know we had a big chat about that years and years ago. So it's possible that between the different, the different groups, I suppose, that you might have different regulations. It might be interesting for them to know
Yeah.
that the ones are doing stuff.
Yeah, well, we just went to Iorca now, and it's all about like, we buy our equipment and we keep it and keep it. We use it year after year after year after year. So it's ropes last forever. Like the only thing is the string, because the string is kind of gone by the time, so yeah, so we use everything else. So like you were like, putting in a lot of infrastructure at the beginning, and then, not really using anything, nothing's thrown away. Anyway. So the other thing, I suppose, is there's very few species domesticated for cultivation. What that means is, like, every year we go out and take wild spores and make our seaweed, from scratch, and usually, so I suppose in theory it's not farmed at all because we're growing wild stuff, you know what I mean? But what I would like to see is biobanks, because which they have in Scotland and Hatchery up there, it's up there, and in Norway too, is like, so you get you keep the seeds cryogenically of all the species from all the bays. It's very easy to do. Is freeze them, and you can take them out and bring them back to life. We need to preserve our stocks and our biodiversity, because all the seaweed is different in the different bays. So, like, if we were supplying, let's say, some of the male, you would get the spores from male, makes sense. Because you don't want to have any Bantry kelp going up there or whatever. So, but domestication, it'll just make things a lot simpler as well,
So there is genetic differences between bays then, so
yeah, like nobody's really actually worked on it, but I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I really would imagine so, especially when we were, like, we noticed it for these Spargopsis. So when we were out sampling the different bays, like, some of these Spargopsis looked totally different up in Galway than it did down here. Like, totally different. Like, if you put the two side by side, you're like, they're not the same species. They look totally different. Morphology is, yeah. And then our species that we get around here is, oh my god, it's identical to this other species called Bonosonia, and it'll break your heart because you've gone out sampling and you can only tell them apart down a microscope. And so yeah, we keep getting when we go out sampling, it's kind of like a Russian roulette. You get back to the lab, you know if that's the right thing. But the Bonosonia up there looks different. You can't tell them apart. So that's, for me, that means they are different genetically.
You have to be, as a result of adaptation to habitat.
Yeah.
And
And
there's the
just,
same variation with plants, terrestrial
Yeah.
plants.
and millennia of living
Yeah.
in the same spot. Because, like, you have to remember, like, all life came from the sea, so these things are well old, and they've adapted to all conditions. Like, it's very rare that anything will grow on a seaweed, because it fights everything off. It's they're fighting plants, and that's why they've got all the good stuff. And then I suppose the last thing is multi-use, multi-extraction, biorefining, because it's kind of depressing if you sell your seaweed to a cosmetics company, but they only want the polysaccharides and they just extract them, and the rest, I don't know what to do with it. But like, there's a company in France that you know, kind of like how they do, I don't know, you know, in like a meat factory, they use every single bit of the animal, you know. So in France, there's this French company and they use every single extract. So they make 70 extracts from each pet, you know, and sell them on into their various customers. So cosmetics company or, you know, pharma company or
What about
Seed
seaweed
company.
as biomass, as fuel?
Oh yeah, that too, yeah. Like, it makes better, I have to get this right now. It makes, okay, diesel is made from oil, I think, and petrol is made from sugars. So it makes better petrol than biodiesel because it's very low in oil. And the oils are so good and so, they're polyunsaturated, so they wouldn't make good, they don't have a high calorific value. And you'd be better off to eat them actually because they're really good for us as humans, you know, because you know,
You're saying
they've got all the-
it doesn't have a high calorific value, but it makes better fuel than
No. The sugars, yes. So, but I think like you need, for diesel, you make it from oil. And for petrol, you make it from sugars, as far as I know. Biopetrol, I know it's not called biopetrol. But bioethanol, thank you. Yeah, you make that from the sugars, and it has loads of sugars, including this sugar called mannitol, which is the key building block for bioplastics. So it makes actually better plastics than fuel. And as well as that, these alginates are really, really strong and stretchy. So the plastics people love that. So actually, a lot of it goes into bioplastics. A lot of the waste from these biorefineries, you know, sleeves, kind of these stretchable sleeves, and like we got a Dutch company actually made paint out of our seaweed at one stage, an indoor paint, so it wouldn't work as an outdoor paint. I can't remember the reason why, probably some way, you know, water, I don't know, it's probably not good for soluble, water soluble or something, but yeah, it was perfect. We painted the inside of the lab with our seaweed paint. And yeah, it was great. Now, it did, like, he couldn't change the colour, so there was a hint of pink, or a hint of green, or a hint of brown. He couldn't, the only three colours he could get. He said we could add a chemical to make it white if you really wanted. I was like, no, I like the hint of
Varieties.
and the plastics are the
Varieties
same.
of your
You know, like the colour is the colour of whatever it's made from. And there's a company in France, Seabed they're called, and they use seaweed bioplastics. They're really good. Yeah, so I think that's it.
I was sitting next to Michael Moy a few days ago, and he's the IFA agriculture fellow.
Oh yeah,
And
from Mayo, isn't
And
he?
he was saying that, seaweed, I tried to grow it, but it's no good. How do you change people's minds like that? Clearly, he would be one of the people that could drive it on and is standing on the brakes, I mentioned before. You know, I imagine that the IFA doesn't seem to be wanting to push that side of it.
Yeah, that'll change though, because you know, we had a couple of people over from Kenmare Bay, and they're mussel farmers, and they want to change over a lot of their lines over from mussels to seaweed and to see how they go. They're just going to add the species to their license. We give them the seeds because we give them to everyone, and see how they get on, you know. And so once,
profit, isn't it? It's much more profitable than fish.
yeah, well, that's what my friend Lena found. But I don't know what the price of mussels are at the moment. But like, I think it's kind of, we need to set up some sort of association with all the people. Like the 13 people, they're all on my phone, so I can ring them and say, you know, Jerry up in Donegal, how's your seaweed looking? You know, but yeah, but even some sort of.
Would it give as much sponsorship as, for instance, the salmon farms? Like obviously there was a problem there with funding, you know, it doesn't give as much.
Well, everybody, if you are a new entrant, you know, if you're a new company that is starting with the seaweed farm, you get grant aided 50% for your starter costs. That's really big. So, yeah. There's also another scheme, it's, I can't remember what it's called, but it's something to do with Brexit and it's something to do with environmental stuff, and that's another way to, and actually the government are dying to give money away on that because apparently they haven't hit their targets for giving away enough money.
EMFA funding,
Sorry?
that the EMFA.
EMFF, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because they got this money from Brussels and they haven't spent it.
Yeah.
And it has to do with, something to do with Brexit that I don't understand, but like, and I think, it's not going to last forever, But the hardest bit is getting the license, and then, the startup costs, it is all those ropes and anchors are quite dear, like, but they're there forever, once you have them,
So we need some kind of seaweed association.
Exactly, we need to set up the Seaweed Association, it's true.
Co-op.
A co-op.
Co-op.
Yeah, because like I was talking to the Donegal people and the Mayo people, and because we harvest, like we normally harvest in April. It was a bit later this year for some reason, but like we're usually done by the end of March, April. So we were on a kind of a WhatsApp group and we were like, do you know what, we should buy a drying machine because we all dry. And but nobody can really afford to buy one of these machines on their own. But they dry, they won't harvest until June, the Donegal people. So we could start it in Castletown Bear and go up the coast, went to Clare, went to Galway, and finally, because they're up in Murray Bay, Malin Hills. So we started in the Miz and ended up in Malin and tried
Just
the
like
seaweed.
the old days, there used to be a thrashing machine here in Coomhola, and it would go over to Bantry first, and then it would be pulled by horses over the tunnel road, over the Dunon, and spend the autumn in Dunon right up to Christmas, and one to another, and look after everybody along the way.
Yeah.
Parties.
Yeah.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So, how do you dry yours? Is it weather dependent or?
No, with great difficulty, to be honest. So there's a drying facility in Castletown that we use, or if that's full, because the problem is the weather as well. So you need a good day to harvest, and then everyone is harvesting, So it's a bit like, so this drying facility up in Connemara we use as well, which is a bit of a long way to go. But we have this PhD student, Priya, from Trinidad, who has made silage out of our seaweed. Really good silage. And so, and then you don't, because the energy costs in drying are ferocious. That's 50% of our costs go on drying this stuff, which really annoys me.
Yeah.
As well as that, you have put all this effort into trying to save the world, and then you're using energy to dry it. It really annoys me. So,
And you don't have to add any molasses or sugars to ensile then.
no,
Yeah, because
it's really kind of, yeah.
Wow.
So now it doesn't ensile like the regular round bales because it's too wet. So we put it in barrels, and and 90 days it's preserved, and it looks amazing. It looks like the day you put it in there. It's really cool, and so
Do you feed
yeah,
it to
she's
cows
very
then, or
clever.
do you feed it to cows, or what's the
You can
plan?
do anything with it.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you can use it for all those.
All those
pharma
applications, yeah.
applications and everything.
Yeah, and like the liquid that comes out as well is really, useful as well.
Yeah.
So it's all that mannitol that they need for the packaging people. It comes out on its own. So you're extracting the mannitol while you're making the silage. If you know what I mean. We tap it out. About 50% of the water comes out. So your barrel, like the barrels are kind of actually they're more like fermenting kind of beer making things. Because you need a widget to let out your gases. You need a tap to drain out, you know, but yeah, so
Well,
we're sending that around to various people to see if they buy it.
do the cattle just take to it? I mean, you know, cows and seaweed.
Yeah, because it's really sugary, this nuts
Yeah.
inside. You can smell the sweetness, like, you know,
Yeah.
you know, because
I mean, right down through Connemara, anywhere. I mean, I see it, you know, on a lot of the west coast. You get cattle wandering down the shore, and just,
Yeah.
you know, it's part of their, you know, natural inclination.
Yeah.
And their vitals
The
is
super healthy ones.
yeah, there's a flock of sheep in Scotland that they're always quoting, in some islands, one of the other hebrides, and they only eat seaweed. There's this breed of sheep. They've adapted to just eat seaweed. They don't eat grass anymore, so they have to feed them seaweed.
But I think that was a common thing in the islands as well, that when the grass was gone and stuff like that, they'd go
They go down. Yeah, I'm sure they probably do with grass, but apparently, it's like 90% seaweed, their diet or something.
Come here, I'll just put it to you. Do you want to move outside
Right.
for a bit, just when it's
Yeah.
nice day? Or do
Yeah.
you want to stay here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so to stop, but yeah.
Yeah. You see the hatchery stuff anyway.